Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness came out this past weekend and making the 28th movie inside the MCU. So today we're going to rank all 28 movies and place them on their proper tiers. Join me down below in the comment section. How does your ranking compare with mine? Before we get into the ranking, hit that thumbs up button for me and a subscribe button for me for lots more Marvel videos coming in the future. And what did you guys think of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Feel free to spoil your way down below in the comment section. With that said, let's hop into our tiers. Starting off with our tiers, we have top 5. My top 5 favorite MCU movies will go in this tier. Then we have great, then we have good, then we have okay, then we have meh, then we have bottom 5. These movies are in no particular order, so let's start off on the highest of high notes with Avengers Infinity War, aka my favorite movie of all time, going in that top 5 tier. I've gushed about this movie enough, so I'll keep it short. Thanos is the best villain of all time, in my opinion, and a menacing villain with proper motivation can really carry a movie along. And to see our heroes lose and the movie end with our heroes losing makes me love this movie that much more, because you don't see the heroes lose, at least not very often. Avengers Infinity War is emotional, it's powerful, it's moving, it's inspirational, and Thanos is purple, and he's badass. And I love him. Absolutely love him. Avengers Infinity War. I've literally seen it 40 plus times. My favorite movie of all time. From the highest of highs to almost the lowest of lows, we have Thor: The Dark World. So I don't hate this movie as much as everyone else, but it is still a bottom 5 MCU movie. I like how they try to do a little bit of Lord of the Rings in space towards the beginning with that epic fight on those planets, and the brother relationship between Thor and Loki towards the end of the movie does hit those emotional heartstrings for me, but that middle act is just... it's just not there for anyone, I think, and this movie in general kind of doesn't have that MCU formula that we know and love today, and it really finds itself with Thor Ragnarok, leading us into Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi created a great movie. Thor Ragnarok goes in that great tier. This is easily the funniest MCU movie. They finally found the MCU formula for the Thor movies, and they finally gave Thor a very awesome and cool story and a great script with another good villain in Hela, who's out for revenge and wants the throne of Asgard. And this movie's awesome. It's badass. And the banter between Hulk and Thor, it's everything and more you want. My name's Colk, made of rocks. Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy going in that great tier as well. This used to be in the top 5 and just got nudged out a little bit. The Guardians are some of the coolest characters ever, and I love this team, and I love this team, how they team up in this movie, and for being an origin story inside the MCU, it works really well as well. James Gunn is great at these kind of misfit characters and bringing them all together and just having a bloody fun time. That's what Guardians is. It's a bloody fun time. Now we're going to go to one of the lowest stakes movies inside the MCU, and the first Ant-Man. I think the first Ant-Man is an okay movie. I don't really love this movie. I love the character of Scott Lang, and Paul Rudd does a great job as Scott Lang, but this movie itself is just a lower stakes film, and when you look at it like that, I think you can enjoy it a lot more, and it makes it for an okay movie. Not good, not bad, not great. To me, it's just okay. I like that Scott Lang's kind of like not a great person turned to a superhero, so I think that works really well, but it's in the okay tier. Then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp. Gonna go in the bottom 5. Ant-Man and the Wasp was a sequel that just didn't do well for me. And I think a big part of that is because it came out after Avengers Infinity War. So you're expecting a big, awesome, huge, great movie. And you got Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think it has one of the best post-credit scenes of all time with Scott Lang getting stuck in the quantum realm. But the movie itself doesn't stick the landing for me, especially with Ghost as a villain. Not a very good villain. Then we're moving on to Avengers Age of Ultron, going in that great tier as well. That great tier is going to be stuffed to the gills. So Avengers Age of Ultron, a lot of people don't like this one. I love this one probably more than most people, and I think the reason for that is because I just love the Avengers characters like everyone does, but I love the dynamic they have, and this is kind of where they're almost butting heads a little bit that leads later into Civil War. Ultron doesn't have the best motivation, kind of just wants to take over the world and conquer the world, but he's a powerful villain that's really going to challenge our characters. Introduced to Wanda Maximoff and Pietro Maximoff, and you didn't see that coming. Really well done scene, and Hawkeye is one of my favorite Avengers, and we get to find out so much more about him in this movie. It's great. I love Avengers Age of Ultron. Moving on to the reason we're doing this tier list, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Going in the great tier. I can't quite put this in the top 5 just yet, and I really do love this movie. It's just, I have to watch it again because there is so much to process, so much that went down. But Sam Raimi made the exact movie that he wanted. I love the creative freedom he had with this movie. It's scary, it's haunting, it's gruesome. Some of the most gory and bloody kills in any MCU movie. Doctor Strange is obviously a standout, but Scarlet Witch owns this movie. And a spoiler warning for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, they do have a big cameos with the Illuminati, with Captain Carter, and with a big one was Mr. Fantastic Reed, which was played by John Krasinski. Was a huge crowd-pleasing moment. I just hope they can come back in some way, shape, or form, at least Mr. Fantastic, because he had about 10 minutes of screen time. He's a really good character, and then he gets like turned to string because Wanda is a witch, and she's a Scarlet Witch, and she is badass. And I love the addition of America Chavez. I cannot wait to see America Chavez again. And Wanda is the only one who can take down Wanda is Wanda, because she is menacing. She is crazy. From, again, a really high point to a pretty low point, the first Doctor Strange. Bottom 5 for me. This is one of the movies that I have a very hard time getting into and struggling to stay awake every time I rewatch it. I want to love this movie. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. I can't get into it, man. I just can't. Then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I absolutely love this movie as a sequel, but it's going to go in that good tier because it is kind of a schlock fest throughout it. Again, I love James Gunn. I think it has a decent villain in Eagle, but he may be a father boy, but he ain't your daddy. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. And then moving on to Avengers Endgame in that top 5 tier. I rewatch this movie more often than not, one of my most rewatchable MCU movies. And this movie is a little bit long, but that last hour is everything and more you can want. And I see some people make the argument that you're kind of just waiting for that last hour. I never feel like I'm waiting for that last hour, and that's why I love this movie so much. In that last hour, when it does hit, it hits hard. I am Iron Man. Moving on to Iron Man, the OG, which started it all. Just had its 14th anniversary the other day. Going in the great tier. One of the best MCU origin movies and one of the best superhero origin movies of all time. The RDJ does a fantastic job as Tony Stark and as Iron Man. And to see this billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, cocky guy get humbled out, sent to a cave, and he has to basically make a machine to get out with a box of scraps, works really well for me. Then moving on to Spider-Man Homecoming. Gonna go in that great tier as well. This is always in and out of my top 5, but my list is constantly changing. This is one of my favorite Spider-Man movies of all time, and Tom Holland is my perfect favorite Spider-Man. This movie is great from its villain, again, with good motivation, trying to create a better life for his family because his world got taken away from the Avengers, and Vulture is menacing, and when he opens that door, your jaw hit the floor. I know it did. Moving on to Spider-Man Far From Home. Gonna go in the good tier. I like this movie a lot more after watching Spider-Man No Way Home. But just, again, I just don't love this movie like the way I want to. It's one of the MCU movies that feels the longest to me. Mysterio is a good villain. I'm on board with that now. It's a good sequel. It's not great. That's all I have to say. Nothing bad. Moving on, we have Black Panther. Gonna go in that good tier as well. I'm excited for Black Panther Wakanda Forever coming out later this year, and this movie works well as an origin story, but it just works well as a world building story. I really love the world building they create throughout this movie, and Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, is a beautiful man. He absolutely perfects the role as T'Challa and as Black Panther, and Killmonger is kind of like a crybaby villain. I'm not a big Killmonger guy, but the movie itself has some important themes, important messages, and a really, really good score. And Ryan Coogler, he directs the hell out of it. Then we have Captain Marvel. That's a bottom 5 MCU movie for me, man. I hate on this movie all the time. It's literally like my least favorite MCU movie, so it's bottom 5. Moving on to Black Widow, a movie that came out last year, and it is a good movie. I really do enjoy Black Widow quite a bit. I enjoy the addition of characters from Yelena to Red Guardian by boy David Harbour, and a terrible villain in Taskmaster who I thought was going to be a great villain. It's a big reveal. That's not really a big reveal, but the movie itself, as a kind of like a little prequel movie, the stakes are obviously lower. Just getting to see Natasha Romanoff get the limelight she so deserves after we already know she had her untimely death in Avengers Endgame. Going to Black Widow, her and her family teaming up. It's a lower stakes movie because it is a prequel. You still get into it. I still buy into the action. I have a fun time when watching it. Then we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings going in that great tier as well. This is another movie in and out of my MCU top 5. But Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is not only a good origin story, overall it's such a great, different story that I love, and Shang-Chi is one of the coolest characters ever. I think the third act loses quite a bit of people, at least for my family. They were not a big fan of the dragons at the end of the third act, and I think the villain in this movie, Shang-Chi's dad, is a very good villain, but I think he had like one of the worst deaths ever in a comic book movie. Like, he just dies and he's gone. Like, he was such a menacing, powerful, scary villain, and now he's gone, and that kind of holds it from my top 5. Still a really fun, awesome movie, and I love Awkwafina. I love Shang-Chi. I cannot wait for the sequel whenever we do get it. Then we have Eternals. That's a bottom 5 MCU movie for me. You're missing Incredible Hulk in there. We'll get to it in a second. But Eternals for me just didn't hit hard on the levels I wanted to, and I was so excited going into it, and it's the most disappointing movie of the year last year for me. I wanted to love it. It would have worked really well as a TV show, and unfortunately, it's a movie that just didn't have enough time to flesh out its characters to get us emotionally attached. Then we have Spider-Man No Way Home. Now you can just throw that in the garbage. Just kidding, right there in the top 5. Obviously, Tobey and Andrew coming in make this movie what it is, but from the other cameos and the overall to seeing Green Goblin and Doc Ock and even Jamie Foxx's Electro all back on the screen together make this movie what it is. Obviously, when Tobey and Andrew comes in, it's the ultimate hype for a fan event, and that's exactly what it was when I watched it. The best theater experience ever in my life. It is a hype event of a lifetime, and that is awesome. But Green Goblin, for me, when I rewatch this movie, steals the show, and that's the one thing that sticks out to me, that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is easily like the second best MCU villain. He's absolutely menacing. Then moving on to Iron Man 3, I want to love this movie. To me, it's just okay. I want to love it, and Shane Black did a fine job. You're trying to take out RDJ as Tony Stark. What are you doing, bro? Sit down. Then we have Iron Man 2, and I know there's already 5 in the bottom 5. We're going to make it a bottom 6, because these bottom 6 for me are always kind of shuffling to my least favorite MCU movie. And Iron Man 2 is easily, without a doubt, the worst MCU movie. And I forgot about it. That's why there's 6 in the bottom 5 now. But moving on to The Incredible Hulk. It's a meh movie. I love the end battle between Hulk and Abomination. It works really well. It's kind of cheesy. Hulk smash. I dig it, man. I really do. And Edward Norton's not my Bruce Banner. I like Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner, but this movie, I think, gets too much hate. It's definitely a little bit different, but it's not one I hate. Like, when I watch it, I was like, honestly, not half bad. Then we have the first Thor Odinson, going in that meh tier as well. This movie is something that I feel just wasn't quite ready to be told yet. A story that wasn't quite ready to be told yet. Kenneth Branagh does the best he can, and this world of Asgard and the world that they create is done really well. But Thor coming to Earth and kind of figuring out his life isn't something I always bought into, and it's the first time we see Chris Hemsworth really ever in a movie besides like Star Trek. So it's his first big break. It's meh. It's not okay. It's not bottom 5. It's meh. It's right there in the meh tier. Then we have Captain America: The First Avenger. I'll put this in the okay tier. I want to love this movie. I really, really do. I think that origin kind of works, but when Captain America goes on tour and they do a montage like World War I or II, and it's just not for me. It's okay. It's not good. It's not meh. It's okay. Then we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier, going in that great tier as well. One of the better MCU sequels. This movie is a spy espionage thriller that is far better than The First Avenger, and the Russo brothers' directorial debut inside the MCU, the best MCU directors. This movie is like almost lower stakes because there's not so many huge explosions, the world ending. It's just this guy trying to get back to his friend who's alive after all these years. And it's sad, it's gruesome. When Steve says to Bucky at the end, I'm with you till the end of the line. Rip your freaking heart out, man. Man, it's sad. Then we have Captain America: The Civil War. We're going to end on a very high note. Captain America: Civil War in the top 5, in that 4th place spot in the top 5. Captain America: Civil War is marketing at its finest. Whose team are you on? Team Tony, Team Cap? I can't ever choose. I'm Team Or. I'm right there in the middle because I'm always getting pulled side to side. It just had its anniversary recently as well. Seeing this movie in theaters for the first time got me choked up, hit me emotionally, hit me in the chest. I'm sorry, Tony. He was my friend. So was I. Man, rip your heart out. Then The Avengers. Top 5 as well. One of the first movies I saw 3 times in theaters, and I remember to this day just loving it so much. I was 13 when it came out, and I just loved seeing the Battle of New York and the Hulk screaming and roaring. Man, it just got me. It got me so hyped up, and I wish he did that still, because that just gave me chills down my spine. And Loki is a top 5 MCU villain, making this movie for one of the best superhero movies of all time and a top 5 MCU movie. Let me know how your ranking compares down below in the comments section. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button for me, subscribe button for me. Lots more Marvel content coming this weekend. Come back tomorrow for MCU director video. Very excited to rank them because there's quite a good ones and there's quite a few bad ones. We're gonna get into that tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you very soon.